All righty. Good day, good day, good day. This is Corey Empowers with Mental Wealth Wednesday, and we have a fabulous person, not only because she's my soror, but because of the tremendous work she is doing in the nonprofit space. Her name is Tiffany Skillern, and I would love, Tiffany, for you to tell us about your organization and the things that you're doing in the community, some of the challenges you may be facing, and things that you hope to accomplish in the community as far as upliftment, development, and just the advocacy that may be needed. So without further ado, we're going to kick it right into this conversation and just chat, a soror chat. No, this is not, not affiliated with our sorority at all, but just having a casual conversation about the nonprofit world, about mental health, about self-care, and the importance of advocacy and fundraising and all of the things that go along with doing the work, boots on the ground, grassroots efforts. So, Tiffany, you are new to your role, fairly new. You've been in it for a while now, been doing some great things. I love the work that I see that you all are doing online. And please tell us, what organization are you with and what work are you doing?
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Corey. It's always great to see you. And I love what you're doing as well. You are really a big proponent out here fighting for those that sometimes don't have a voice. So thank you for that work. So yeah, I am Tiffany Skillern. I am the executive director at Start Community Support Network. But my passion and determination comes far before this position. Like, I've always been community driven, community service driven, and always trying to fight for the underdog. I think God puts you in positions and puts the pain in your life, even though it's hard, but because he knows that you will act. Mm-hmm. So I would say my experience first started when my sister had children very young in school. And it was something in my heart that just said, okay, you have to be an example to show another way. Not that she was a bad person for doing that. She made a mistake, but it still put a charge on my life to say, hey, there's multiple ways to do this. How can I expose my nieces to the multiple ways that you can do this? So I am a first generation college student. I did get married and then have my children so that my nieces could have that example as well. My sister is a wonderful mom, a wonderful person. So that to me, she finished high school with 3 babies in high school. Wow. 3 babies in high school and you still finish. That tells me that she's an extraordinary woman, and it's just choices that we make sometimes lead to things. And then you need that village around you to help pull you up. I think that's what we miss a lot of times, that village. It was my duty to be another part of their story and to help them. So as challenging as that is, being first generation college student, that is kind of where my journey started. And then my parents, I grew up in a household with drug use. So back in the day, you would hear all these terms of like crackhead and, just all these negative connotations. And I knew with my parents, I'm like, they don't fit any of those stereotypes that you see on TV, stealing and just strung out and just out here on the streets. They didn't fit that. So in my mind, that was another charge of like, the people that have these difficulties have them for a reason. Number one, it started for a reason. But number two, they're not bad people and they're fighting an addiction. Yes. And so I wanted to make sure that people understood that just because somebody has a substance use issue doesn't mean that they're a bad person and they're out here tricking and selling their kids and all this different stuff. My mom and dad gave me the most love I could ever have. Like, my mom, she gave me this heart to serve. She gave me this heart to do what was right. And my dad gave me my strength, so I wanted to fight for them and to fight for other people who needed that second chance, but were counted out because of their issues. To piggyback on that, then I followed up with my dad as a Vietnam veteran, and he fought for this country. And that's where he got his drug use from, fighting for this country and having to cover up the pain and everything that they had to endure. And he came back with substance use issues. And being that he had those issues and being the strong man that he was, he never asked for help. So his health began to decline as he got older. He walked on a cane my entire life, but then something came about where he had to ask me for help. And at that point, I knew there's a problem because he would never ask for my help. So we began traveling up to the Cleveland VA to get him help. I was telling him that his house is kind of falling apart around him. He's having more trouble with his ADLs, just extreme pain, depression. And to make a long story short for that instance, is one of the doctors pulled me aside and said, "You'll just have to face it. He's not in pain. He's drug seeking."
Mhm.
Now that took
It's
me.
interesting the language that's used. I'm reading a book right now that kind of covers some of the historical prejudice and discrimination that Black people have faced in this country and still face today, whether people want to acknowledge that or not. But it is in the institution, it's institutionalized in the laws and the policies and the procedures that literally Black people were excluded from programs. And unfortunately, so many Black veterans that proudly and honorably served this country did not get to benefit from the GI Bill and other veteran benefits. And that created so much wealth for non-Black people.
Mhm.
It exactly and directly excluded Black veterans. And so I appreciate you bringing that up, but you can just think just that alone, how to figure out how to make ends meet, how to have a living wage, that causes a tremendous amount of stress. And people are seeking anything that can help them to get through these things, to find some better way of life. But when the system literally is designed and structured to keep you down, there are very limited pathways forward unless you find someone or have someone that can help guide and direct you, or someone who is not racist that is willing to help you to get your first home or get your first job or whatever the case may be. But before you continue with that, can you also tell us what are ADLs?
So activities of daily living. So it was getting harder for him to eat. It was getting harder for him to bathe himself, everything. He just was getting weaker, and I could see that, and he was vomiting, all these different things that, indicated that there's an issue and that he needed help and he needed that advocacy for somebody to fight for him.
Mm-hmm. Well, I appreciate you taking what you felt in as far as your passion and compassion for your parents and other family members, and now parlaying that into the community. How has the experiences that you grew up with and wanting to be a positive image and role model for others in your family, how did that translate into your work in the community?
Yes. So to kind of finish off that story is we found out that my dad had bone cancer. So that was why he was deteriorating. And again, that bone cancer, which was multiple myeloma, could have come from that Agent Orange that they sprayed over at the VA.
Oh, right.
Okay.
In Vietnam.
Yes. Diabetes, high blood pressure, multiple myeloma, that could all stem from that. So just knowing that I couldn't help him and knowing all the things that I've been through, I made sure that I said, I want to be a part of the solution. I don't want to complain about the issues. I want to be a part of the solution. So I started out as a speech language therapist and then transitioned over here to the nonprofit world. What we do here at Start Community Support Network is to improve the health and wellness of our community, starting with the root causes, which are the social determinants of health. We address those, trying to get people to make sure that they're connected to the resources they need, whether it's housing, food, clothing, mental health, substance use treatment, and something that differentiates our facility from others. We have these wraparound supports, but we have trauma-informed training, which really helps us to focus in on the mental health aspect. Yeah. Like how you show up in the world is greatly influenced by your mental health. So am I missing lots of work? It could be because of my mental health. Parenting, relationship issues could be because of my mental health. Being able to just navigate day-to-day challenges could be impacted by your mental health. So what we do here at our agency is help with that fight or flight mode. First, we try to stabilize the client, and then we try to work as their executive functioning skills to say, now let's sit down and look at your issues. Let's break them down step by step. Let's problem solve. What is your goal? What are some steps that you can take to get there? What role can I play to help you get there? And then what are your responsibilities to help yourself get there? And we just help to give them that support. And you will be so surprised at the amount of people that come in and say, I didn't feel like anybody cared. Nobody has taken the time to really sit down with me like this and not judge me. Like, I don't feel judged here. That's a big thing for me when they say, like, I don't feel judged here. And I'm like, yes, this is your agency. I tell all my staff too, I'm like, this agency, I work for this agency, but this is the people's agency. Star Community Support Network should be the place that they come to when they don't know where else to go. And this is where you go, because this is your place and we serve you. So we just make sure that we help them break down those issues and then help them get connected to the resources they need to thrive.
That sounds beautiful and, practical and ideal. And unfortunately, there still seems to be so many obstacles. What obstacles are you finding to be your biggest challenges? I know funding has to be one of them.
I hate to say funding first because, people say, please try to think beyond that. But it's like when you're out here doing the grass work, people are coming in off the streets. You're helping these people, but you don't get the same kind of funding support as the larger agencies. It is challenging. Like my staff and I, we worked in this building the full winter with hats and gloves because our HVAC system wasn't working and we didn't have the funding, to fix that. So it makes me get choked up sometimes because I can see the work that we do and the fact that, we only get small portions to do this work when really we're serving as like the outreach for many organizations because we're the ones connecting them. So the way that they get their numbers is through us connecting those individuals to those resources. So I just say funding is a very major thing. If you have a passion to help people in this community get connected to the resources they need, but also the support that they need, then I say get behind us. I know it's easy to donate to the Goodwill. I know it's easy to donate to the Akron Canton Food Bank or the larger entities, but there are small grassroots organizations out here fighting day by day, walking with these people step by step,
and taking the brunt of the work.
Yes. Yes. Like a little small monthly donation of $10 a month that's automated to our organization makes a big difference. Like we have a food pantry here. We have a clothing closet for both adults and children, and we have counseling on site. So it's not that we're doing all of this where people say, oh, but you're doing so much. What do you actually do? Well, those are stabilization tools. What we do is get them connected to what they need. What we do is work as their executive functioning skills so that they can think through and actually execute. What we do is be here to support them and make the calls and do the work that they need to make progress. So yes, funding is a big major thing. And like our building, when you walk in here, you should feel hope when you walk into an agency. We all know with our trauma training that the environment plays a big role. The colors play a big role. We're in here a building that served the community for all these years and our carpet is stained up. Our things just don't look the way that they're supposed to. There's leaking coming in the windows. Our HVAC system's not working 100% the way it should. We couldn't get a commercial fridge at first, for our food pantry. Little things that you should be able to do. The lighting is messed up. Those things should not be an issue when you're serving the community. We're doing screenings for mental health and substance use treatment. We're working with pregnant women that could be at high risk for infant mortality and maternal mortality rates. We're connecting them to insurance, making sure they get to prenatal visits, educating them about the changes they can make in their daily life. There's no reason we should be struggling for funding. So I'm going to take some ownership and say, hey, I need to be speaking up. I've only been here a couple years, but I'm going to speak up and say we need funding support. That's where it starts. Clients cannot think about sustaining their mental health services or even going to initiate substance use services when their life is in chaos.
Yes.
Their life is in chaos. They can't pay their bills. They don't know, if they're going to be able to buy groceries. Do you buy groceries or do you go to the doctor? Some people don't have insurance because Medicaid cuts, you don't meet that threshold, but you're still struggling. All of that plays a role.
And just housing instability and the low quality housing, right? For those who do have subsidies of some sort, whether it's a voucher or some other kind of assistance. It's a matter of what property owner is going to accept that subsidy, and the quality of the home seems to decline based on the property owner who's willing to accept subsidized rent, for example. And that's an unfortunate part of it too, because that's where you are every day. And then the environment where that home is, how far is it from a store? How far is it from medical assistance? It's just unfortunate to think about, again, how these things have systemically been implemented through the laws, through the policies. And some people will be like, oh, that all ended in 1965. That all ended in 1965. But you have to consider the fact that Jim Crow was in effect for 100 years. It is not just going to go away because a law passed. As we saw with Brown v. the Board of Education, there were governors who refused to integrate the schools, even though the law had changed by the Supreme Court's ruling. Refused. So just because a law is passed, the next step is actually implementing the law, enforcing the law, being the third part of it, enforcement. And so what we see is that even though the laws may have changed, the effects of those laws are still very much the cause of the lack that too many people face, and far too many, disproportionately speaking, impacting the Black community.
Yes.
That's a reality that should be acknowledged and addressed in this country, in my humble opinion.
Yes.
Absolutely. But with that, mental health is something that is like thought of as a luxury. Who has time for that? When you have all these other bills. And I feel like a perfect depiction of that was the recent movie with Taraji P. Henson, directed by Tyler Perry. And for the life of me, I can't think of the movie right now, but I
can't think of the name either, but yes.
It was like life imitating art in terms of the artwork called Blue Monday, and the way that Taraji P. Henson sat on the side of her bed, just totally overwhelmed with life, right? And it just showed to me how too many people live and have to live because the resources are lacking in terms of pathways for them to have a higher quality of life. And it is very depressing. Yeah. So for one, I appreciate the work that you're doing. I appreciate you, your leadership, your servant leadership, and continuing to move this cause forward. But in terms of the mental health aspect, how do you manage addressing the mental health needs of your clients as well as your staff? Because this is hard work. This is thankless work. And it can be overwhelming for staff as well. How do you address those two dynamics?
Wow, that's good, because I see that so much. And this is why you have a high turnover rate. You don't get paid really what you should. And then you have all this pressure. It's very challenging. It's very challenging. So for our clients, we're trying to make sure that they're stabilized. Now, the one thing I wanted to bring up, and I don't want it to slip my mind because it was so important, that when we talked about the funding aspect, the way that some of our programs work is you're paid by performance in a sense. Mm-hmm. So there's a pathway that you're trying to close between your client's needs and and getting that actual resource. So the time that we spend calling resources, trying to vet resources, checking eligibility, working with providers, we don't always get paid for that time. So let me give you a specific example. If someone needed utility assistance, okay, I might have to call 3 different organizations, figure out what eligibility is, try to send my client there. If I send them there and they say we're out of funding, all the time that I spent is not paid at all.
So do you get to count that towards your number of those that you assisted?
Yeah, you can count and say I assisted this person, but really what impact did you have when the resource wasn't there? So you don't get paid for that time. And that's what's very disappointing. And that's where we lack sometimes, is because it's complex out here. The amount of time we have to sit on phones, waiting on hold, like all of that time, we don't always get reimbursed for. So then we're seeking funding to even support the positions that we have. And then our staff is working hard, and I don't have the funding to bring in the team building expert, because that's extra in this agency. That's the extra. We don't have the money for that, where you can come and have somebody talk about self-care and do a little pampering day for your staff. That's extra. So that's where we struggle too, is like being able to take care of them fully. There's some organizations that can bring people in, you go out and do outings, and you have that money to support them. It's a challenge. So I have to start getting more creative on how can I support my staff better. I created a recharge room inside the building, just as something that's very comfortable and bright and has diamond art that we can work on together just to relax. I put some aromatherapy in there for them to just have a place to go and retreat. But really, it's not enough. It's not enough.
I appreciate you. And that sounds like a wonderful opportunity to just have that space, a break room of sorts, but it's more focused on taking a break literally for yourself. And I recently did a presentation for social workers. In my opinion, this type of work, this labor of love, requires self-care led service. You have to be able to take care of yourself in order to help all of the people in your caseload. And some people think of self-care as like this luxurious trip to some island or going to a spa, but you really don't have time for that. You really don't have time for that.
No.
In crisis mode many times with some of your clients. So what can you do to help yourself? I have talked about not breathing, feeling myself not breathing.
Yes.
And that's a real thing. The tension that you may be feeling, the clenched jaws that you aren't acknowledging until you start feeling the pressure in your jaw. Breathing, taking a moment. So just thinking about your space, I haven't seen it, but to just go in there and take 3 to 5 minutes to recalibrate, to reset, to breathe.
Yes.
And one simple exercise is like breathing slowly, inhaling and exhaling and counting to 10. It seems like that's an easy thing to do, right, Tiff? I can get to 10 half the time.
Right.
7 on a good day.
That's right.
You have to pay attention and focus, and you can just feel how your body can relax.
Yes.
And if anything, I just encourage people to learn some breathing technique that they can implement at any time during the workday. Most job you could take a break. Some people take smoke breaks all throughout the day. I remember what I used to say, well, I want to take a fresh air break. I walk, but I want a fresh air break. Taking a break to just recenter.
Yeah. Even when you talk about that, it's like even talking to people, we are not present in the moment. Like our brains are working so hard. It's constant. I tell people I have to put on deep sleep music and just hear the waves. I have to hear some sound. And it can't be like a high ping piano sound because my mind still alerts to that. So like you have to be present. And we talked to somebody before that talked about just grounding, just walking around and talking about what you see, what you hear, that you don't pay attention to on a daily basis, and just being present in that moment. And it's hard. It's hard because I find myself trying to relax, and then I'm like thinking I'm relaxing and realize my brain is over here trying to problem solve what I have to do next or what I forgot to do, or, you got to get this finished. So really people taking time. And that brings up another important point that people sometimes forget. There are parents out here that don't have any support. So they're home with kids 24/7, 365, or go to work and come home and you're right back at it. And they don't have it where you can take them to childcare because you can't afford that. They're just there. That alone, kids are a blessing. So I don't want them to ever, and sometimes I have to remind my kids, if I talk about stress or being overwhelmed, you are the best part of my life. But it's my desire to strive for you is what's, causing me the stress. But there's some parents that can't get away.
Yeah.
And what are we doing for them? Like, I would love to I have so many ideas, and that's the problem. I have so many ideas that I wish that could come into play for parents like that just need that moment away to even go to the doctor. Some people have to like pack up all their children on the bus to go to the doctor.
Right.
Like, what are we doing here? So, yeah, it's challenging. Yeah, that another point I wanted to bring up. I was reading this book. I think it's called Recharge. And I didn't realize until I started going to therapy that I allowed myself to get so depleted that sometimes you don't even know how to come back from that depletion. Like, I can do these little self-help things and have that moment, but then something will trigger and you're right back in the depth of all that burden and that overwhelm. And it's like, man, I should have never allowed myself to get so empty that I can't even get a recharge. And that book had a good depiction of your phone battery. Ever let our phone battery get probably past half. The charger, okay? If it even attempts to die, we're gonna get it to the charger. Do that for ourselves. We don't notice those signs and say, you know what, I am getting empty. Let me go plug back in. Let me plug back into what I need. It's all about what everybody else needs. It's about making things work. It's about going to work. It's about making sure the kids are good and fed. But we never take that time to recharge. And we have to start doing that. It's essential. It's like an essential thing.
Absolutely. It is absolutely essential. And I mean, a lot of people have flown on a plane and may have heard those safety tips at the beginning, and some of us don't listen to them. But one of them that stands out, and I hear a lot of people talking about it. I know I talk about it often, but putting on your mask first. And you can think like, wow, that's like mean. You want to be able to help people. Right. But literally it's based on science that you will lose oxygen and your brain will stop functioning. So you have to put on your mask first before you start helping other people, even your children on the plane. You have to put yours on so that you can start doing what? Breathing. Your brain needs the oxygen. Then you can help other people. And applying that to life, we have to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves, creating boundaries, making sure we're getting sleep, make sure we're drinking water, like sleep and water. Those are two things that you think are simple, but you can easily just
I'm like, did I drink anything?
Right. Missing lunch, skipping breakfast.
Yes.
We have to be intentional with ourselves and what helps us to have the highest quality of life. And in terms of going to the doctor, that is so important. And I appreciate the work your organization is doing in terms of connecting people with medical insurance or medical providers that can help them on a sliding fee basis or whatever the case may be. But I recall Tom Joyner on the Tom Joyner Morning Show. They used to have a Take a Loved One to the Doctor Day campaign with some other sponsors. But I do that in my life right now. And I will do a post like showing myself going to these different doctor's appointments. I like to put them all in one day and just make it a day like going to work, 9 to 5, all of the medical appointments, and taking a loved one to the doctor. And the loved one is me. We have to view ourselves as loved ones too. So as much as time and attention you're providing to others in your life, your children, your family, friends, you have to be willing to love yourself, to consider yourself a loved one, and take yourself to the doctor as well. Not just make the appointment, but take yourself to the appointment too.
You got to go. I never looked at it. I always, like you said, you're looking at it like you're helping people, you're helping your family. You got to do this for your family. But I realized I did it to the detriment of myself. Mm-hmm. So once it became that, they still didn't get the best part of me. They still didn't get what I was trying to give because I no longer had it. I was less patient. I was less affectionate. I was sleeping more. I was isolating more. And it's like, man, you're doing all this, call yourself fighting for them, but now they're paying the price.
Right.
Because you
And
didn't
it
take
might
care
be
of
like
you.
a sense of obligation. I found that for myself. Like if I feel like I'm obligated to do something, I'm not so full. I'm not fully there and present in the moment. I'm feeling like I'm just doing this because I have to,
Mhm.
instead of wanting to or feeling passionate about the thing, whatever it is. So
Yes.
that's something to be mindful of as well. Just take that moment to take a nap if you can, or just have your 5 minutes before you get started with whatever that thing is that you have to do with your child or children. Just
Yes.
take a break. I'm sure, like if you like, honey, just give mommy,
Yes. They
7 minutes.
understand.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
7, even just going to the bathroom.
Yes.
I just heard this lady, she was talking about she couldn't even go to the bathroom. Her kids would be all playing, crawling all over the tub and stuff, and she's trying to use the bathroom. No,
Yes.
you got to establish boundaries, right?
Mm.
Establish the boundaries. No, you don't knock on the door while I'm in there. Just let me have a moment
Just a moment.
to use the bathroom.
Just a moment. And they do. They'll start once you set those boundaries and you're consistent, they'll start adapting because I
Yes.
started when I come home, I just need a few minutes to unwind. Just a few minutes. So now they're like, well, mommy, after you unwind, like I know you have to take some a few minutes, but after you unwind, can you so and so? And I'm like, yes, but I need my time. And I go upstairs and I close my door and I just have to debrief for myself. I got to de-escalate myself. So, and they'll understand. And then you're teaching them those positive behaviors too. And that's what I didn't, I wasn't present thinking about that. It's like I am teaching them that this is okay to run yourself in the ground, that it's okay to feel so overwhelmed that you feel like you're drowning. No, that's not okay. You have to take that time and teach them to take that time when they're upset. Hey, go take a moment to yourself, breathe, and teach them those positive behaviors too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we talked about like from the mommy level, and I would say just thinking about some of the questions that you posed before, like who may be the population that falls through the crack.
Yeah.
I would have to say Black women, because of all that we feel obligated or not, or our passion or whatever, or our love for the community, our people, our children, that we don't take care of ourselves, and maybe the ones that are the least likely to walk through the door for help in any regard, health wise, mental health wise, even seeking assistance for food or whatever it may be. Just having that strong woman cape, and wanting to do it all, and afraid, maybe shameful, maybe to ask, or just be willing to receive, because sometimes there are people who provide and want to provide and help you, but a lot of times it's, I think, rejected. And so with that, I would say it would be helpful. And then seeing Black women say it's okay, to see Taraji P. Henson say it's okay, to see, I don't know, I read a book recently about Toni Morrison, and she talked about the positive side of depression, because it gave a moment to like sit still.
Yes.
Allow things to come to you, so while it may be in depression because of an environmental factor, or a familial loss, or whatever it may have been, it also gave her the opportunity to slow her down, and something came to her that maybe developed into a book or whatever it may be. So the more and more people talk about mental health and wellness, and without shame, it helps to reduce the stigma associated with it, and to help us to know that it's okay. Like literally, it's not just a campaign or a cliche. It literally is okay not to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, to ask for help.
That
And
speaking about that, you brought up a great point of not even being able to accept help sometimes.
Mhm.
I didn't realize my inability to accept help And until I started unpacking it, I think writing stuff down makes a big difference. When you talk about counseling and therapy, sometimes just writing things out, you make connections. And I made a connection because I remember my mom struggling, as a young person, and how hard she worked, that I never wanted to add a burden, right? So I wouldn't ask for anything. I was making sure I did my homework and had my grades and everything like that on my own. But that translates into your adulthood. We talk about childhood ACEs, adverse childhood experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing her struggle and the fights and that the drugs caused and the domestic violence and the drug use, I didn't want to make anything worse. So now in my adulthood, I don't ask for help much. I don't put it out there that I need this or that. So yeah, somebody could say, well, you didn't ask. Well, that's it. That's like a adaptive behavior, I guess, that I developed over time, is like, I don't want to be a burden, and I don't want to put more pressure on my mom. So people have to watch out for those things that happen in childhood that then impact the way you function as an adult. That's one thing I wanted to bring up. And the other thing, you talk about Black women, and I feel like that is so the truth. I also worry about our Black men.
Yes.
I worry about our Black men that hold so much inside because they were brought up to be strong, or you don't cry, or you have to be the provider, you have to be the protector, when all the while they're struggling in silence on the inside.
Yeah. And young boys who are told that they're now the man of the house, or, and taking on that responsibility, not even knowing what that means,
Yes.
So, and again, I just appreciate organizations like BEAM, the Black Emotional and Mental Health Organization Collective, that helps so many marginalized communities, and just providing direct services for what people really need.
Mm-hmm.
You could have this cookie cutter approach, but who is that really helping? You have to take the time as an organization to understand the needs of those that you intend to serve, not making them fit into this mold that you've created because this is what you want to do, but creating things that actually address the needs of those that you're serving, like your organization is clearly doing, right? And then in terms of maybe why, some non-clinical reasons why people don't partake in therapy sessions, it could, number one, be time.
Oh, yes.
Lack of resources, lack of finding a program or a therapist that addresses their needs, as we're talking about, organizations like BEAM that does a great job, in my opinion, of doing that. And yeah, I would say that those are the reasons, I think, some of the top reasons why people don't engage or fall out of engagement with therapy. For me, it took 3 times before I committed to therapy. One, I just simply probably was not ready yet. It was court ordered. It was when I was younger, and I didn't want to be in touch with my feelings, and I felt that's what was going on. So I might have went to 3 sessions. Then I tried it again when I was in law school. It just didn't feel right. It wasn't for me. Then the 3rd time after my divorce, and once I admitted to knowing that I wanted to go for myself, and this is something that I wanted, I wasn't mandated to do it. I felt like this was it this time, but then I had to commit to it. And so I would have been one of those people who would have been quick to, and I was quick to cancel the counseling session because I got 50 million other things to do. And then I'm trying to rush and get an appointment when I'm in crisis. And then you got to wait, because they're not just waiting for your beck and call, like you can schedule an appointment.
Right.
So, yes. And it was through time and error, trial and error, that I learned to schedule it and keep it on the schedule. Don't let anything make you change it, right? And that's a part of creating boundaries, even for yourself, in your calendar.
Yes. That is so true. That is so, because we'll set that boundary when it's something that we really feel is important. Nothing's going to take that slot. Whether it's getting your hair done, because that makes me feel good, to get my hair done, nothing's going to take that slot. So we have to make that a priority. You talked about the cookie cutter, and I wanted to go back and reference that. That is so true, because a lot of times people feel like we can do the same thing for every population, and that's not the way it goes. I know we've been speaking a lot on the Black culture, and I don't want anybody to get offended by that, but we know what our people need. So one thing that I tried to do was to get a group of activities to address men's mental health. So I was reaching out for funding, but it was hard for people to understand. They felt like, I'm over here having to decide whether to fund whether somebody can eat, and you're asking me for money for a football game. Like, it just doesn't make sense to them. But in my mind, I know that I can't reach my Black men the same traditional way. I can't ask them to go sit with a counselor. I have to bring it into something that they're already familiar with, that their defenses are down. So we had planned a game night where they come watch football, right? They're going to watch some football, but I implanted a therapist in there with some counseling tools that they didn't know about to get the conversation sparked. They were able to watch football, eat. I selected foods that dealt with men's health that they didn't even know about. It directly dealt with their health. And then they also got to have conversations amongst men. No women were there, nobody that they, could feel shunned by. Yeah. They just had a conversation. And what I found out is they did more talking than they did watching the football game.
Yeah. And but it just brought them together. It created community, something that they all had an interest in, right? And at the same time, we also have to be careful, because the Black community is not a monolith, right? We're divergent. We have different experiences, different needs. So it is critical for organizations to do like a needs assessment if they're trying to determine who they want to provide programming for. And again, in case I didn't say the full name accurately the first time, BEAM, I think they're great in doing that, like very intentional in doing that. But that's the Black Emotional and Mental Health Collective, BEAM. Wow. And I had a guest on during July, which is National Minority Mental Health Awareness Month, to talk about some of the programming and some of the work that they do. So very, very active in the community, but it is essential to know the needs, not just based off of, cultural traditions or religious thoughts or whatever the case may be, but actually doing a needs assessment for the community where you are. So as we come to a close, Tiffany, do you have like questions of me or any final tips you want to share?
I think you answered a lot of mine. I just wanted to see from your experience what you were seeing as far as like barriers to people attending therapy, kind of why they start and stop, just getting it from your personal experience, because I know that you've run the gamut, with your family. So that was very helpful. And we just want to make sure that our community is aware of that's the charge we're taking. We are going to be the place that focuses on that mental health aspect by any means of how we have to do that. It may be activity based. It may be a paint and sip. And to us, it's not just activities. This is the way to get people engaged. So when you think about funding projects, you may have to think a little bit outside of that comfort box. And it may not be just basic needs as far as food and clothing and things like that, because when you reach somebody in their mental health and start to improve that, you will see it will be a multiplier, because it's going to be impacting their employment. It's going to be impacting the things that you're looking to fund, the relationships with their kids, their children's development. All of that's going to be multiplied. If you can get here settled and here settled, then you will see a return on your investment for sure.
Yes. And I just want to add, I gave like 3 things: time, money, and just resources in terms of reasons why people may end it. But I also want to take a more serious note also in that people, the community that I mostly advocate for, those living with severe mental illness, they're often left out of the mental health discussion. And it could very well be from their symptoms that they stop engaging with services. So they can have all the wraparound services and support, but if their behaviors, if, for example, they stop taking the medication and the behaviors take over, the paranoia, the hallucinations take over, they will very well stop engaging, and it just won't be a good situation until it's bad enough to have intervention and involuntary actions taken. So that's another population that could be impacted by leaving services once they are engaged. And then we talked earlier about drug addiction and drug use. Sometimes people have a dual diagnosis with a severe mental illness and drug substance use disorders. And that can cause a multitude of complications in terms of, I mean, for a lack of a better phrase, being strung out somewhere, being unsheltered, and being impacted by that, and therefore not engaging with the services. So for those who do this work, for your whole team, I want to thank you. If you don't receive thanks enough, just know that your work is important and it is needed. And please, I will do what I can to amplify your work, but you have to let go of whatever has kept you from asking or receiving help, and knowing that you amplifying the services and the work and the impact that your organization is making in the community can help you to bring in more funds to help the community even more. So I'm willing to do what I can to help you in that effort as well.
Thank you so much. I thank you again for all your hard work, Corey. You've always just been a great person throughout your entire life. So thank you for continuing to advocate for those that sometimes can't advocate for themselves.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you for your time today. I truly appreciate you. You have a great day.
Okay, you too. Talk with you later.
Okay, bye-bye.